5 p.m. I think we could start. We have a couple more people joining, but I will start with just a few intro words. First, to say thank you to everybody who's been diving into this webinar, and thank you to Jonas and Ganesh for being our guest. I'm super excited about moderating this panel and this webinar about the topic of performance tracking and what KPIs actually investors care about and how to track them and how to go about this. So my name is Mélanie. I am the CFO at Recap, and I will be moderating this session. And of course, as part of the finance team, I do encounter KPIs and performance tracking topics relatively frequently, and I know how crucial it is and how tricky it is. It's not just that SaaS companies and their customers and the needs have changed so that you always need to be constantly tracking different metrics. It's just also the fact the current market environment has changed so much that you always need to be on top of things and tracking your performance. And it's not just crucial to manage your own business, but also to communicate the intrinsic value of your business to investors, whether it's venture debt investors, venture capital, or revenue-based financing. These metrics are actually crucial. So how do you prove that your SaaS business is healthy is the question we're trying to address here. How can you track this metric and prepare for this? So I've got two experts today in the panel, and they will introduce themselves. But maybe I start just introducing Ganesh very quickly. Ganesh is Director of Sales at Chargebee, which most of you, I'm guessing in the audience, know as the leading revenue management platform. And we have Jonas as co-founder and CPO at Recap. So without further ado, I will start. Just a quick logistic topic. We will have a Q&A at the end of the session. So you are able to ask your question in the question tab. There is a small button, question at the bottom, or in the chat, as you prefer. Yes, and then we will get to these questions at the end of the webinar. So maybe I'll start with you, Jonas. Maybe you can give a quick introduction to you and Recap.
Sure. Also happy to be here. I'm, as Mélanie said, Jonas, one of the co-founders and CPO at Recap. I think that's it regarding me and about what we do at Recap. With Recap, we are providing a financing alternative for companies with a subscription model and recurring revenues, like SaaS companies, for example. And the way it works is that we have a digital platform where you can onboard and connect your data sources, like, for example, bank accounts, revenue management tools, hopefully Chargebee, and accounting data. And then based on this data, we assess you and give you financing terms, which is in the end a financing limit up to 60% of your ARR and a financing fee. And basically, as soon and as long as you are active and approved on the platform, you can then flexibly, just like as a credit line, use that financing and draw tranches again and again and put that money to good use. So looking at use cases a bit, most companies were working with a focus on accelerating their growth or extending their runway or optimizing their cash flow in general. So put more easily, I would say, we help companies to go further faster. That's a bit about Recap as a business and my background.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Jonas. Ganesh, maybe give you a quick introduction to you and sure. What Chargebee does.
Sure, yeah. So I've been with Chargebee for over or close to 5 years now. I began my role as Chief of Staff to the CEO back in 2018, just around the time Chargebee was entering its point of growth. So fortunate to say that I was in the early stage of the company's journey and been part of the growth journey, witnessing a 10x scale in revenue, team size, and multiple rounds of fundraising, right? And currently I lead the startup sales for EMEA region. Just to give a quick background about Chargebee, what we do. Chargebee is an end-to-end revenue management platform. We have customers across 53 countries, Asia Pacific. We have a team of 1,000-member team. We have a headquarters in San Francisco, with local offices in Amsterdam and in Chennai. So that's a quick brief about myself and Chargebee.
Thank you, Ganesh. We'll dive deeper into also what you can do with the Chargebee solution, and also the combination with Recap as a way to track your performance as a SaaS company. Maybe getting back to you, Jonas. As mentioned quickly in the intro, it seems a lot of the market environment development over the past months have put, I would say, a new light on tracking KPIs, and we've noticed there's a lot of change in focus and a lot more, I would say, importance being attached to these KPIs at the moment than, I would say, just beginning of this year. So the way investors look at metrics is a bit different. Can you just give your view on this?
Yeah, definitely. I think, one can say for sure that in 2022, with the recent events like COVID, like the war in Ukraine, we have hit a new normal. And if I want to put it in one sentence, I would say we are coming from a phase of growth at all costs to now focusing on efficiency, especially capital efficiency. Like, this is the broader picture where we stand right now. And especially in tech, you can see that the public markets already have reacted quite quickly, and really across the board, across every industry, from fintech, e-commerce, SaaS, entertainment, whatever you name it. All the publicly listed companies have been hit quite hard and have to live with quite drastically reduced valuations. And that basically started in this year, and right now has not even come to the lowest point, I might be afraid. So as always, the public markets reacted quickly and moved first, but also we can now see that same situation in the private markets. Although technically there is more VC funding called dry powder available than ever, the funding rounds slowed down a lot and valuations dropped, especially in the last quarters. And here also, again, you can see that pattern across all the company stages and all across all industries. So yeah, basically to sum it up, as I just said, we live in a new normal, and there are two high-level things that needs to be considered right now. The first one is we all have to think how we recalibrate our business. Like, what is the focus of the business? How do we run it? As you said, which metrics do we use to calibrate the business? And on the other hand, that heavily also affects our financing approach and options. Since like benchmarks are now different, investors look at different metrics, like the whole system environment looks different, and that needs to be considered by every company within that space. This is a bit my take on it.
Yes, and I can only agree to this. I think when we set up this webinar, we also wanted to make it as a tangible takeaway for our participants. So we are going to dive a bit deeper into metrics and how to track them and what to track exactly. So it's relevant for all participants. I think one of the tricky things when it comes to KPI tracking is that it's an absolute jungle, and the more people you ask, people will tell you, okay, you have to track this. Some people tell like, no, don't waste your time, just track something else. So I think it's great to have both of your view on this, like in all the jungle and of metrics available that you can track, like what do you focus on? Maybe Jonas, you are, as Recap, part of the, I would say, the financing side of the equation. So maybe you can give your view on, as a financing provider, what do you look at?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, since we are a provider of financing, our goal is to look at our companies, customers as a whole, and try to understand every angle. And I think Ganesh will dive into that later on with a tool like Chargebee, you naturally look at a deeper level. So the set of metrics that we think are right now important for SaaS companies this year to navigate through capital efficiency are rather like, let's say, higher level. But the way how we look at things is like the first Runway out of the set of 3 that I'm going to highlight here is Runway. It's a KPI that everybody, or metric that everybody knows for companies that are cash burning. It's more or less the lifeblood of the company. For profitable companies, it doesn't matter that much. But why is it important in this context? In the end, the Runway gives you the frame or the time frame that you have to optimize capital efficiency, and also gives you the time frame you have to control and play your fundraise. So this is the overall frame of everything, let's say. What we currently see as benchmarks based on our data is that most or at least a lot of companies have to raise further funds in 2023. So if you look at the median of companies, most of them given that they do not drastically improve capital efficiency, they will have to raise next year. Even the top quartile of companies will have to raise early 2024 or a bit later. So it's not that companies can stop fundraising fully, but I think that gives a bit of an overview where others in the segment currently stand. Now looking a bit more into like real capital efficiency metrics, the first one is the efficiency score. And the efficiency score basically tells you how much net new ARR you generate for every euro that you burn. So how efficient are you as a company overall, looking at all expenses at the company overall. You might be familiar with burn multiple, another metric that is more or less the same in the formula, just the nominator and denominator are switched around, but in the end it tells the same. And what looking at benchmarks is important to note here is that this is very much correlated with the size of your company. So naturally, if you're a young company, you have to invest more upfront into building up your product, building up sales and marketing processes. So you're rather more capital inefficient, but the more you grow, the more you can and should focus on capital efficiency. One other thing that is important to note here is that the gap between the median of companies and the top quartile is quite big. So it shows there is quite some room to improve the efficiency score and capital efficiency, and gives you somehow an idea of the range, what is possible. The last metric in that set, and again, it looks at capital efficiency, but this time it focuses more on sales and marketing efficiency, is the customer acquisition cost payback period. So it essentially tells you how long does it take to get my sales and marketing expense back from a single customer. And it has to be noted here that there are a lot of ways to calculate customer acquisition costs, and there is no single right or wrong. We can't go into that detail right now. It's just important that you know how you calculate your CAC, and so that when you later derive actions from that, you're aware what the underlying calculation is. Looking here at that metric, I can say that this is very much correlated with the customer segment you're looking at and you're working with. For example, if you're working with mainly B2C and SME companies who tend to have a lower churn, higher churn and lower lifetime value, and you should focus of being below 12 months. Whereas if you're working with enterprise customers that have usually a higher net dollar retention and lower churn, 15 to 18 months, is okay looking at customer acquisition cost payback period. So this, I would say very briefly, is what we as Recap think is a good stack of judging capital efficiency in SaaS, and also what we think benchmarks are.
I think this, you really nailed it on these 3 main benchmark, because ultimately these are really the benchmarks that across the board, regardless of what kind of investor you're talking to, you will always end up focusing on these three topics. And you mentioned it's tricky to calculate these. And I think for some companies, getting there to be able to calculate is quite of a journey. In that context, I mean, Recap, a few months ago, we launched the Recap Insights that's also meant to help subscription companies calculate, keeping track of their metrics. Maybe, Jonas, you can give a quick overview of what that means and what you can do with these dashboards.
Sure. Basically, this has two parts. Like the first part is the digital platform and the insights that we provide there. I mentioned early on that our whole product is based on a digital platform, and on that platform, as soon as you have connected your data sources and are active, we provide you with insights that you can look deep down in. And as I also said before, we aim to give you a perspective of every angle of your company. So for example, we show you revenue insights like MRR, growth, churn, net dollar retention, and let you dive deep down into that and explore you how you perform there. But also, for example, on the cash flow side of things or capital efficiency side of things, we are showing you the metrics I've just mentioned before. So you have basically those digital insights at hand on the platform, but that is only the first part. What we then do with our customers is that we basically help you to unlock the full potential of your business for the future based on those insights, because like insights themselves and metrics and numbers are fine and good, and you need them, and we help you to get there. But the also equally important part is to translate those numbers into actions for your business. And this is where we guide you as Recap. Coming back to the example of capital efficiency, an example here, what we do is it's very important to put sometimes metrics into correlation. And for example, with regards to capital efficiency, you have to look at efficiency score and customer acquisition cost payback period in correlation, because like when you then see where your company is positioned, only then you can derive the operational insight or the operational measures that you take, and also the financial measures. Like looking at an example here, for example, this company has a good customer acquisition cost payback period, so they get their money back quick, but overall they are not as efficient. So when you then think about, okay, what actions should I take, then it makes sense for this company to put more budget into marketing and sales, since you are quite efficient there, and to reduce expenses and spend in operations and R&D, for example, because this is where you right now seem to overspend. Looking at another example, and I'm doing that to show like how important it is to put metrics in correlation to get the proper insights out of that. Another example here, this company is rather efficient overall, but they are have a quite slow CAC payback period. So for them, the operational measure would rather be to reduce spendings in sales and marketing, and then stuff should be fine given that they are overall quite efficient. So this is basically how we help to translate insights into actions, like operational actions, but also as equally important is that we also help you to take financial measures. And as a provider of financing, obviously we can help you to, for example, think about how you finance certain initiatives. Because, for example, financing your customer acquisition with just equity money does technically and from a capital efficiency standpoint does not make sense. And for that, using like debt capital from, for example, Recap would increase your capital efficiency overall. So this is basically our take on insights and how to translate insights into actions.
Yes, I think this is a very good transition to to the insights from Ganesh's side. I mean, Ganesh, you're at Chargebee. Of course, you have a super deep insights into the metrics of a lot of SaaS companies. So that's why we're super happy to have you on this panel. a quick transition over to you. In the recent months, I would say probably since the beginning of the year, what kind of metrics do you see SaaS company have been trying to optimize the most, and what metrics do you focus on as also on, like, what's your take on the metrics companies should focus on?
Awesome. Yeah. Something that we were all able to observe in Jonas' walkthrough is how drastically some of the baseline has changed, right? For your runway or efficiency score or CAC payback, right? But we are seeing this through the investor vantage point, right? An operator vantage point should be slightly even more deeper and a bit more granular. More importantly, to understand what kind of metrics do really affect your CAC payback period, your runway, right? Your efficiency score. I think that is going to be pretty critical for an operator to have visibility into. So before I go into some of these metrics that I observe our customers focus on or we do internally, I thought it would be good to begin with an example of how we did in our growth phase, right? The journey that we had, the lessons that we learned, and through which how it was handy when we had times of crisis such as pandemic or the current macroeconomic scenario, because some of the best practices that we developed way early in our growth stage have come really handy when it comes to handling such situation, right? So let me quickly show you a dashboard. I call this a SaaS operator dashboard. Internally, we call it a SaaS metrics dashboard. Obviously, I put some dummy data of what we track at Chargebee. So you're able to see 3 segments in this dashboard. At the top, you see our subscription revenue by plan and usage and its growth rate, right? So this is the highest level metric we track on a month-on-month that every business does. But what we also do is break it down further to understand what's contributing to this growth rate, right? So if you're growing at 10% month-on-month, is it your new revenue that's contributing to the growth? Is it your expansion revenue that's contributing to the freemium business model contributing to the growth, right? Or is your churn or downgrades impacting your growth, right? So you possibly would have grown 12% instead of 10 if not for your churn or pause or downgrade events. And subsequently, if you look at the last part, we are tracking some of the key ratios and metrics, right? Which are our ARR churn rate, what's happening on a month-on-month level, what is our quick ratio, right? And then all the way up to CAC to LTV, right? Now, to summarize, what is going to be important for a business is, while you're tracking all this, are we following the breadcrumbs? Are we following the leading indicators to understand what story does these metrics tell, right? And are we able to deep dive into those metrics, right? And how are we actioning on those metrics are going to be critical in order to achieve your efficiency score, a better runway, or better CAC payback period, right? Let me get into specifics of how we are able to do this through Chargebee in the next slide. So let's take efficiency score that Jonas highlighted about, right? So within Chargebee's analytics dashboard, at the top, you begin by analyzing whether your MRR is growing or is it slowing or is it declining, right? The moment you spot it is slowing or declining, you're able to track how many activations I've had on a month-to-month basis, right? How many signups I've had on a month-on-month basis, so much so that you can track it at a weekly level or even a daily level, right? And you can connect it all the way back to the campaigns that you run, right? So you know precisely which campaign, is it a direct brands or brand search, or is it a specific social campaign, or is it a specific set of keyword campaign that had the most success for you, right? And as you know that, you know you're efficiently spending your dollar and you're improving your efficiency score, right? You're tracking your user growth, you're able to track your activation, right? So on and so forth. Now, when you're doing all this well, right, and even after that you're seeing a slow, that's possibly because you have a leaky funnel, right? So we also offer you a retention cohort by which you can look all the activations in a given month, and are they churning or growing with you over a period of time, right? So let's say you onboard 50 customers today of 500K in revenue, right? By month 3 or 4, if that declines to 450 or 400K, you know very well that there is a lot of early churn, right? You probably are onboarding customers who are not the right ICP for you, right? Let me deep dive specifically into churn as an example. So, which actually connects to your CAC payback period, right? When you look into churn, you look at as a gross churn, which is a good trend to watch for, but that doesn't tell you the full story, right? When you look at it in comparison with your expansion revenue, you're able to analyze what is your net churn, right? And if it's still trending upwards, then you need to further investigate whether are these churn voluntary or involuntary, right? Involuntary churn is bad, right? Any churn is bad, but involuntary churn is definitely bad because you had a control to avoid that situation. It could be because of cart declines or other issues similar to that, right? Sometimes churn is also good, right? You might have onboarded a wrong customer or wrong ICP, and you don't want to grow with them, and that's a desired churn, right? An undesired churn again is bad. Is this churn an avoidable churn or an unavoidable churn? Right? Let me take a step back and explain a scenario that we had at Chargebee when our churn rate was higher. We started looking into the data deeply on all the aspects that I mentioned now, right? And we finally nailed that when our customers process a certain processing volume beyond which the churn drops significantly, right? That insight really helped us understand, okay, now the focus is to onboard our customers quick, to incentivize and make them process with our system as soon as possible, right? And we were tracking milestone on a weekly level with a dedicated cross-functional squad led by our customer success leader. We had sales leadership, marketing leadership, product leadership. It's pretty much all hands on deck, right? And on a weekly basis, we were tracking some of these metrics, and we were building interventions. We were following up to make sure that these interventions indeed had results. In about a quarter or two, we were able to significantly reduce all the avoidable churn, right? What I mean by an avoidable churn is where the customer leaves you because they did not get the feature that they wanted. Could be because of service related reason, could be because of product related reason. And an avoidable churn is possibly their business is shutting down, or maybe they got acquired by another company who was using a different billing system. We can't do anything about it, right? So exercises like this helped us nail down the churn problem, right? And improve our CAC payback over a period of time, right? Now, that takes me to the third key metric that Jonas spoke about, which is cash flow and runway. We all know cash is king, and in times like this, we need to be extra watchful about where it's leaking, right? And for subscription businesses where we invest a lot of money upfront to acquire a customer and they pay us over a period of time, it's even more important to watch for our accounts receivables. How much of your account receivable aging by 30 day, by 60 day, by 90 day, to know what amount of cash impact does your business have, right? We are able to look into leakages specifically due to refunds or credit policies or coupons that your sales team gives, right? All of it contributes and amplifies your leakage problem, right? That impacts your cash flow and, of course, your runway, right? So what Chargebee is able to do is give operator the control to look in a granular way, right? And investigate what are the leading indicators that I can fix will translate into a better outcome for my runway or for my CAC payback or for my efficiency scope, right? So overall, Chargebee offers 150 metrics out of the box, similar to this, And these are things that you're able to track on a daily, weekly, or a monthly basis and review with your team.
And at Recap, I mean, we obviously a bit biased towards data, obviously, as part of a digital financing platform. And I see how the ability to run diagnostics is so important, because if you can't track metrics, you've already lost, I would say. And so we're like very strong supporters of any data driven solution to be able to track any sort of metrics. And we have set up an integration between Chargebee and Recap a few months ago. So that's why, Jonas, maybe you can tell us a bit more how this integration works and how our customers can raise, I would say, synergies out of this cooperation.
Sure. Maybe before coming to that point, one comment regarding Ganesh's insights. I think it's super awesome how transparent everything gets with those solutions, and I personally find it super nice that you can start very high level with a super high level goal, like I want to improve capital efficiency. Then you get to like more higher level metrics, and then you can drill down to the deepest level of operations, and all of that is transparent and visible to you in real time if you have the right setup in place. So to me, it's really really nice to see that, and I think this will get even more important in the future, where like focus is on improving this. So yeah, I would encourage also everybody to worry about data quality and insights in that area. And looking at the integration of Chargebee and Recap, actually it's quite easy. So all you have to do is, when you are an active Chargebee customer, you just generate a new API key and sync that API key with the Recap platform. And as soon as you have done that, takes 2 minutes or so, we can synchronize the data from Chargebee to Recap, and there's no need for you anymore to upload manual data or re-upload data when it's expired. So in the end, it increases convenience for every party, but also basically removes any potential or room for errors in the process.
Yes, and Ganesh, what's your view on, how Recap customers also can make the most of the Chargebee solution?
Sure. So Chargebee is a comprehensive revenue management platform, right? So it offers you not just the reporting capabilities that we spoke about, but specific things that you can do in the context of your billing automation, right? Your subscription management. We offer a retentions platform. So if you are a business in the subscription commerce space and you're challenged with high cancellation, we offer a platform that can deflect your cancel and save churn, right? We have a comprehensive accounts receivables platform that enables you to improve your dunning, your AR strategy, and improve your cash flows. So Chargebee will be an end-to-end revenue management platform for customers of Recap.
Yeah, that's awesome, and we see it every day on the platform. The benefits of having such an integration and transparency, as Jonas mentioned. Just looking at the time, because I see we have a couple of questions lined up for us. I think it's we wanted to have take a few minutes to just, I would say, summarize a bit the takeaways, and also give you the chance to, give tips and advices to companies in the audience on how to navigate this performance tracking topic. So maybe I'm starting with you with Ganesh. What would you recommend companies to do, that companies looking for funding to do, to be able to, scale their business? I would say, what would you focus on?
Right. So I think building the operational rigor is critical in times like this, right? You need to know which are the metrics that you need to focus on, and that comes through building that operational rigor around your growth, around your churn, around your leakage, right? And obviously, when you know what metrics are working well, what is not working well, that goes part of the story that you want to tell your investors, right? And great stories always helps you win in the fundraising market. The second thing that I've observed is in times like this, it's very important to do scenario planning of your cash flow and your revenue projections for good, bad, and ugly, right? So keep a close watch, do the scenario planning, and keep a status check and how you're aligned with these scenario plannings. So those are two things that I would say are going to be key for businesses in this scenario.
Yeah, I fully agree. Jonas, what's your take and recommendations for companies?
Yeah. The first point is one I made before, but maybe to drill a bit deeper on that. I think when you're focusing on improving capital efficiency, it's super important to look at both the operational actions you can take, but also the financial actions you can take. I think only if you master both, you can maximize the outcome and get the full potential out of it. So as I said, operational measures like where do I put my budget, how do I spend money, monitoring what's going on with my underlying metrics, all of that. But on the financial side, also considering can I consider alternative financing options? Should I delay my fundraise? Should I maybe take alternative financing into my next funding round? Can I finance customer acquisition costs with alternative financing? All of that, only if you look at both sides and master that, I think then you come to the best possible state. And the second point is a bit more esoteric, but I think it's super important because like what is going on is super crazy right now, and it's super easy to get carried away by everything that is happening in the markets and what might happen in the future. How is the world going to look like in 6, 9, 12 months? And I think what is super important is that you have to focus on yourself. You have to focus on what you actually can change, what you can change within your company, and basically what is in the scope of what is possible for you. Because in the end, this is the stuff you can have an impact on. And I think, again, if you master that, then in every possible scenario within the market, you might be or you're going to be suited very well for your next fundraise. And that would be my second point.
Yes, and I also fully agree with this one. My take on the whole performance tracking is, I would say, maybe not esoteric, but a bit more psychological one. I feel there's always the workload worry when you start tracking things and say, I'm never going to manage. And I think a lot of the reluctance maybe to dive deeper into metrics is, I think a lot of us, and this is just a human reaction, are probably a bit scared of transparency, because then problems you didn't know you have become very apparent and then you can't ignore them anymore. And my take would be, just don't be afraid of transparency, because if you're not actually tracking your metrics correctly and making the most of it, there's no way you can unlock the potential of your business. And there's also no way you can communicate the potential of your business to other customers, because KPIs, whether we want it or not, are the language that investors speak, and there's no way otherwise to communicate them. So that would be my take on this topic. We have a couple of questions, I think, in the chat. I have to look at. But first, I wanted to say big thank you to Jonas and Ganesh for your insights. For participants, I believe there is an option for you to download the presentation, the slides, and that can be useful also to make the most of this webinar. So I'm just looking at the questions on the chat.
Maybe one comment up front. So when you have questions after the presentation or webinar, you can always contact us. I mean, regarding the metrics, we really touched the surface of it, and I did not even mention how to calculate those metrics. I just mentioned one possible interpretation and how we can derive action. So there's a lot of room to dive further into that, and if you're interested in that, you can always contact us anytime.
Yes, absolutely. The first question that we have is to recap, so to you, Jonas. The question is, how do you ensure that the data added manually by CSV data is for investment is authentic and there's no data manipulation? I think this one is an interesting point.
Yeah, definitely interesting and very relevant. I mean, given that we connect into different data sources like bank accounts, revenue data, accounting data, we also have different views on the same thing. And that makes it possible basically to compare different data set and make sure that everything lines up and adds up. So this is one way of looking at it, like comparing different data sources from within the company and checking that. The other part is that, for example, via open banking, when you connect to bank accounts, it's technically, I would say impossible to fake that, since you need to have a valid bank account at a bank in your name. So there are, like, let's say, operational and technical measures in place that make it really, really hard to fool us. I always say that I don't believe that it's possible, but if we find somebody who can manage that, then we would really like to hire him or her to show us how we can improve even more.
Yes, absolutely. For you, Ganesh, there's a question in direction of Chargebee. It's one participant is mentioning, I would love to see a net payment and net total billing dashboard that exclude the VAT. Is it on the roadmap?
All right. I think I would love to understand a little bit more about that question. I can take it as a follow-up item and get back. At this point, no, but I can check with my product team and circle back to the person.
Yes. Okay. Very good. As mentioned, happy to keep in touch with people in the audience. There's another question also in direction of Chargebee to you, Ganesh. The question is: campaigns are only related to campaigns sent from Chargebee, or is there any way to sync among others with like HubSpot? Is it possible? Or and where can I find the SaaS dashboard on Chargebee? More like technical questions.
Right. Yeah. So these are possible. You're able to integrate with CRMs like HubSpot, Pipedrive, ActiveCampaign, also Google Analytics, right? So you are able to track the campaigns pretty closely. And within Chargebee, you're able to find Revenue Story. Revenue Story is our analytics platform where you're able to track these metrics. And again, happy to give a demo. Please hit me up on LinkedIn or over an email.
Yes. Thank you. We have another question from Francesco, who wrote, regarding tracking metrics, one of the most common problems in our daily routine is subscription duplications. For example, when a sales operator activates twice the same plan for the same customer. And the question is, how do you suggest to manage the situation? This is also quite a technical question, but maybe you can give a first answer to that question.
Right. I'm sorry. I'd like the question to be repeated, please.
Yes. You can also click bottom right. You see the tab question,
right.
And then you can see it's the one that at the top from the question by Francesco.
Right. I think it again goes back to how you've configured your plan, right? So we need to understand why it gets duplicated and how your product catalog is set up. And with that, we are able to eliminate this problem of duplication.
Okay. Great. Just looking at the other questions, I don't think there are any more. Then I would say it's right on time. We're like super punctual. Just a few words also for people remaining in the audience. Have a look at Chargebee's website to learn more about their solution. Of course, Recap website always available, and we have a great newsletter that you can sign up to. Participant can download the slides. I think there will also be a recording of this webinar, so you can access it later on in case you want to maybe out of the daily crazy workload, you can maybe take some time and watch this again. You see, you can learn more. You see the link popping up. You can learn more about Chargebee by clicking and signing up to Recap's newsletter. I would say it's great. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you, Ganesh, for your insights. Even for me, I learn a thing or two. So that's always good. As mentioned, get in touch with us in case you want to discuss anything, whether it's Recap, Chargebee site. We're happy to facilitate any communication. And I would wish a good evening to everybody. And see you soon.
Thank you, Mélanie. Thank you, Jonas, and thank you all.
Thanks, boss.